So I have to start by telling you who we are. Before I talk about what we are doing, let me just start by saying who we are. There's a lot of data on this. Don't bother reading everything. We started up as a company in St. Louis in 1890. And then that's the top left. In the middle top, you see that we're a global company, over 100,000 employees all over the world. And then the top right number, which everybody wants to know, we're about a $25 billion company. Okay, that's our total revenue for last 14 it was. Now, you all would have known that there was a company called Copeland. Copeland used to be an independent company located in Sydney, Ohio. Emerson bought Copeland in 1987, and after they bought them, using Copeland as the focus, they developed, if I look at the far right, it's the second one from the far right where it says Emerson Climate Technologies. They used Copeland and they started building the climate technologies portfolio of companies around Copeland. So what started out with one compressor company, today we are into compression, we're into electronics, we're into valves, we're into pretty much anything and everything that goes into human comfort and food preservation. So anything to do with food preservation, anything to do with human comfort, whether it's industrial size or all the way down to a small reach-in refrigerator that you might see in one of your cafeterias. We don't play in three areas in between human comfort and refrigeration. One is we don't play in residential refrigeration. Okay, that's not something we get into. Two, we don't do anything with automobile air conditioning. We stay out of that. Three, we don't do anything in aircraft climate control. So those are the only three things where we don't play. But other than that, whether it's rail, bus, you name it, Caterpillar trucks and this and that, we are in all of those products. Whether it's a compression valve, electronics, you name it, it's all in there. But the largest division within Emerson is what's on the far left, which is a process group. And the process group is actually located in Dallas and Austin area. And they're into oil and natural gas and things like that, and that's the reason why they're located in Texas. So that's on the far left. Recently, about 2 months ago, we announced what's right in the middle is what's called a network power group, and they are in the data center cooling business, as well as providing power for data centers and such. We recently announced that we're going to spin that company off. So once that is done, that'll actually take out about, plus a few other sundry companies, it'll take out about $9 billion out of the Emerson $24.5 billion, so we'll be down to about $16 billion, okay? And that'll probably happen sometime in 2016. Once that happens, climate is going to become a bigger percentage of the Emerson business. All of a sudden, we're going to be a bigger group. Well, that's both good and bad, okay? It's good because we get a lot more visibility, it's bad because we get a lot more visibility. A little bit about climate. I already mentioned that we are in the process of what we do is human comfort and safeguarding food. And if you look all the way at the bottom, you'll see that there's some of the brands. You know all about Copeland. You might have seen the White Rogers. So who are our customers in refrigeration in terms of safeguarding food? Supermarkets, restaurants. You go to a convenience store, there's plenty of Emerson products. You go into a Kroger or a Meijer or a Dorothy Lane Market, plenty of Emerson. Anything that is kept cold is Emerson. Everything in terms of temperature control, there's lots and lots of Emerson products all over. You have over 15 Emerson products in your home, and you don't know that, okay? And the reason why you don't know that is because we go into a lot of different brand names. InSinkErator, does anybody not have an InSinkErator in your house? Everybody does. But within Emerson, we, especially within climate, we started asking the question, if we have done very well in the last 50 years, how can we continue to do this well for the next 50 years? Are we still going to be around 50 years from now? You know the story of lots and lots of big companies that have done extremely well that no longer exist, okay? And we certainly don't want to be one of those companies, but we want to continue to do what we are doing, but perhaps even more, because we're not satisfied with the 1% and 2% growth rate, and we said, how can we make that 2x, 3x, 4x, 5x even? And we start asking questions like that, we realize that doing things the way we have always done is definitely not an answer. There are other reasons too that why we want to do what we want to do, why we're doing the Helix here. And all this is about, you know, where we are going with that Helix. The reason is the following. Change has always been there with us, okay? I'm sure every generation can talk about how change has happened during their generation. But I think, and I'm sure you'll agree with me, that the pace of change somehow seems to be different now than it ever was in the past because of this whole digital revolution, whether it's the internet revolution or is it data or all this computation capability and things like that. You know, the Internet of Things, everything can be reduced down to a small piece of hardware that can reside maybe even on your body and things like that. When you start talking about things like that and they all become very possible, all of a sudden the pace of change is what hits you. It's an interesting thing because when change is happening, one of the things you can do, or one of the things you need to do, is to run faster just to keep where you are. So that 1 to 2% growth that I talked about, if we did nothing, we would start falling back. So as a company, we have to run just to stay in place, okay? But staying in place is not something that we enjoy doing. We want to be leaders. We want to be out there. And if we want to be out there, we can run fast or run faster, but I don't think those are going to make much difference. So this is when we realized that somehow we need to do something different than just simply running faster. Doing the same thing we're doing over and over again, in a short amount of time, it's not going to help. Which is why we started talking about, can we look at how we can do this in a different way? And I'm going to show you a video now that Mr. Purvis, some of you know him, Ed Purvis is his name. He was one of the people that was instrumental in not only in this idea of changing the way we look at things, everything that I talked about before. He is one of the guys that deeply believes in it. And but then because of his close relationship with the UD and Dan Curran, he's also one of the reasons why we are here today at the University of Dayton.
Several years ago, we started thinking about the future of our industry and Emerson's role in that future as a leader. We thought, what if we created an era at Emerson of innovation through collaboration? What if we could inspire the entire air conditioning and refrigeration industry to a whole new way of thinking? And to do that, what if we built a first-of-its-kind innovation center? A center with an entirely different workspace where our brightest minds could connect to create a future that today we could only imagine. I'm happy to report we're about to bring this vision to life because Emerson, in collaboration with the University of Dayton, is building a brand new facility on their campus dedicated to advancing system innovations, where students, faculty, and the Emerson team will work side by side. It will be an innovation center featuring highly interactive, real-world environments designed to help advance the technology of supermarkets, restaurants, homes, commercial buildings, and data centers of tomorrow. The facility will be a free-thinking hub for global collaboration, a resource for training, and a gathering place for industry and future leaders. And it's a huge step in Emerson's never-ending search for better, more integrated solutions to follow our vision.
We actually had several choices. We were looking at Aachen, Germany. We were looking at Toronto, actually, because we do a lot of work in Canada as well. And we were looking at some Asian countries too. But we decided to do this in Dayton. And one of the things that is not very well known is the entire refrigeration and air conditioning revolution happened because of Dayton, Ohio. Until then, people used to use sulfur dioxide. So it was the invention of Freon that made air conditioning and refrigeration proliferate all over the place. It's too bad that human beings don't know how to use technology. We abuse it, right? Whether it's the internet or this or that, human beings always have a tendency to abuse. And again, that's another topic for another day. But we did abuse Freon. And then we realized that Freon, when you just make a lot of it and send it out into the atmosphere, it does do something to the ozone. And so we got rid of Freon. And then we came up with another chemical. And then lo and behold, what do we do with this new chemical? Abuse it again, right? So we dump all of this new chemical up into the atmosphere. And now we are realizing, oh, this is causing global warming, okay? So we're now talking about transitioning to yet another family of chemicals in refrigeration and air conditioning. And let's see if history repeats itself. What do you think we're going to do? We're going to abuse that too. We're going to let it all out into the atmosphere. And 20 years from now, 25 years from now, we're going to discover that these new chemicals are also not that great for us. This is what human beings do. So we have to stop that cycle. We have to break that cycle. So there are some things that are happening right now that hopefully will change that. Okay, and there's a couple of things that we are talking to UDRI about in terms of leaks and things like that, where where I think we can have some profound effect on all of these kinds of things. But this is why we chose Dayton. Why did we choose University of Dayton, the university here? And the reason for that, obvious. One, there are plenty of graduates at Emerson Climate that are from UD. We've already got lots of working relationship here, about 30 years plus. And your strength in the basic sciences, your strength in other fields, and your UDRI. All of these are the reasons why we chose to locate ourselves here. So this is a Helix. This is the innovation center that we're building. It's at the intersection of Stewart and Main. It's about a 40,000 square foot facility. And there are a lot of people here at UD that are responsible for this. And I think I do need to mention people like Tony Saliba, that in fact my first conversation about this innovation center was with Tony. When I came here one day and we started talking about this. You recall that, Tony? And then one thing led to another, and before you knew it, we were talking about, should we build this innovation center here and things like that. And then of course Dan Curran and so many others. Beth Keys, I would be wrong if I didn't mention her name. She's been a tremendous supporter for me all the way. And that's been wonderful. Lots of other people. I can't even mention all the names, but you saw all the dates there, and those are the dates, and we're still on target for getting it all done. Now, this is a short video, and it basically is a time lapse. We have a camera on the site, and it actually records it records pictures once every 2 or 3 minutes. But this is a time lapse of the whole thing here from the start. That's where it is, all in 360 days. So, but the building is fine. We have a grand building, and I'm going to talk about what's inside the building. I know you all know that I've got 5 modules inside the building, and yes, I'll talk about the modules. Nobody ever talks about the collaboration space that we have in the building. To me, that's probably the #1 module, but we don't talk about it. I'm going to talk a little bit about it today. Why is that important? It's important because we can build a new building, but if we do the same things that we've always done in Sydney, Ohio, or in the rest of Emerson, then, we have a tremendous danger and risk of sliding into that. So our vision is we want to not go down that same beaten path to the pond every time. We want a different path every time, so that we can actually recognize different things, experience different things. We want that blank slate of thinking. We want to fuel conversation and collaboration. You see all those words. All those words are important words. And one of the ways in which you do that is we try to align ourselves with not only people like you in the academic world, and by the way, I will mention this, Laryl always stretches me. So Laryl, you push, you know, every time I think I'm there and you pull me in a different direction, so that's great. So this kind of conversations that we have with you help enormously. But what also helps is if we work with people who do this for a living. And I didn't know this, you know, 6-8 months ago. There's this place called Wright Brothers Institute, less than about 2 or 3 miles from here. They are the innovation facilitators for the Air Force Research Lab. Some of you may have experience with them, but they've got great people who can actually force you to think in ways that you normally will not think. The idea behind that process that you see there is when somebody gives you a problem and the problem is very defined in a very narrow way, help me climb from here to there. Okay, if that is a problem, what this divergent process is, you start asking questions and you start moving in directions that don't seem to be related to the problem at all. You just move away, farther and farther away from the narrow definition of the problem. And then once you try to go as far as you can, then you start narrowing down on the definition of the problem. And when you do that, you'll find yourself redefining the problem. What you originally stated as a problem is not the same statement that you'll come up with. That is what is, this is quite well accepted in innovation circles. And so that is what I have over there. We're learning this. We're actually piloting. We've got the process defined, and we're piloting this process on 2 pilot projects right now. One in our I can share this with you. One for looking at comfort in the home. Okay, what is comfort in the home, and how do we define it? How do we address it? So that's one pilot, and another pilot has to do with how we prevent this whole problem of a chemical like this refrigerant getting out of a system. If it never got out of the system, it would never be a problem. So how can we go after something like that? So those are the things. So why do I say that? Because I know there's a lot of intelligent people here. Think about it. And if you have some ideas or something like that, let me know. And we'd be happy to work with you in figuring out what to do. So that is why this is what we're trying to do. And as, of course, to do something like that, that's why I say this is the most important space in the entire building, which is an open area for collaboration. And how many of you have been to Emerson Climate or Copeland in Sydney? Anybody been there? Okay. How tall are you? You're 5'8" or something like that? Here's my problem. I'm 5'5", okay? When I'm walking through that, I'm always bumping into people. Why do I bump into people? Because we got cubes that are 6 feet tall. So if you're under 6 feet, nobody knows that you're actually walking through the maze. That's a problem. Well, here's the other problem. Once you get into your cube, you don't have to see anybody for the remaining 8 hours, okay? And what's interesting is I actually was interviewing, I interviewed about 120 people so far for various jobs, and many of them were from Emerson. And it was kind of sad to hear a lot of people talk about this because they're all looking for something like this because they feel so trapped in their offices. They feel so trapped in their cubes. They feel so trapped physically. And therefore, they want to get out because they feel like they'd be much more productive if they saw another human being during the course of the 8 hours in the day, which is wonderful. I know you all do because you see students every day, okay? But you know, in our world, you can go there and I can lock myself in my room, and unless I can even do meetings on the phone anymore. You know, I can do WebEx and on the phone, and nobody even knows whether I'm actually paying attention or I'm sleeping. So we also designed this whole space with Steelcase, you know, I really checked out a lot of different companies, and I love what Steelcase does. Okay, they are great at designing workplace environments, and so I took their help and we designed this whole place with their help. So that's the reason why. I mean, you're going to see lots of different formats for teams to sit around and work. And some of this you already have on your campus. I know that because I walked around and I've seen it. There's some elements of it already on your campus. So that's first. But then this is the thing this is the glitter that often attracts everybody's attention. We got 5 modules inside this place. The first module is a residential home. Yes, it is true. We have a 2,000 square foot house inside the building. Okay, it is inside an environmentally controlled chamber, and we have the entire building itself is something that we are calling our lab, if you will. We have a commercial kitchen. I'm talking to your catering services to see if I can have somebody come there and work for one meal every day, cook the food. So it can serve about 150 people. I have a small mini supermarket and a convenience store inside this place. We also have a data center. Even though we're spinning them off, they're still going to be part of our operations here, and we're going to continue to work together. This is what that home looks like. It's about 2,000 square feet, 1.5 baths, 2 bedrooms or 3 bedrooms, depending on how you want to configure it. We have all kinds of air conditioning, all kinds of heating. It is a real house. It's a livable house. We actually just got inspection done. Okay, so anything that I do in the house, I have to do it to code, because if I don't do it to code, then I've got a problem because I cannot take it outside the building, right? So that's why we're creating this environment as though it's like taking a house and putting it inside. And I can change the temperature around this house from -20 to 120. I can simulate solar load on this house. I can change the humidity. I cannot do snow or ice unless I take the humidity all the way up and drop the temperature down. I don't know, we might try that someday. It is a fully furnished house, and these are all some of the furnishings that it's not all of it. These are some of the furnishings that is going to be actually in the house. Now you might ask me, why the furnishings, okay? Well, because furnishings affect the comfort that you experience in your home, okay? So if you don't have anything at all and just a bare room, it feels different than having furniture in the room, okay? And if we are in the business of trying to address comfort, then I need to make sure that my house over here looks exactly like your house, the way you live. When you start defining what is comfort, one of the first problems we stumble upon is, how many of us are in this room, you think? About 60 people? Okay. There are 60 definitions of comfort, okay? And by the way, your definition of comfort right now will not be the same as what it'll be in the evening or in the night or in the early morning hours, right? The definition of comfort is very subjective, and it is also time-bound, okay? There's a temporal feature to it as well as personality. So the question then is, how do you make this house exactly what you want it to be, no matter who you are? That's a challenge. And that is sort of the challenge that we're trying to tackle. Now you might say, why would a compressor company want to do that? Well, here's my answer to you. Remember what I said about change happening? What if somebody else figures out that this definition of comfort or this problem that I just described does not need a compressor to solve the problem? Now all of a sudden, you know, I'm not running fast enough and I'm going to get left behind, because the world is moving too fast for me, right? That's part of the issue. So the answer, I understand what you're saying, and those are all things that we're going to try and simulate and do in this place as well. All right, light commercial building. In fact, let me say this too. There is not a single type of technology that is available today anywhere in the world for air conditioning or refrigeration, with the exception of ammonia, that I don't have in this building, okay? Everything is in this building. There's one piece of everything in this building, okay? That is unique. No one has gathered all these things like this in one place. No one has gathered all these different modules in one place. No one has put this innovation collaboration space like this in one place. This is truly a unique, one-of-a-kind thing in the world. There is no other company in our industry that even comes close. And I'm also going around talking to a lot of different companies that are doing innovation in various spaces, and I'm finding out that there is no other company that has even come close to something like this. You know, Johnson & Johnson, P&G, they all have it, but they're all slightly different models. It works for them. This one we hope will work for us. And of course, there's a supermarket and refrigeration module. It is, you know, we're going to have some real food in there too, but you know, I wouldn't encourage you to come and shop in our grocery store because it might be spoiled. Why? Because I'm experimenting and doing something, and in the process, the food spoils. And now what do? That is a lesson for me to learn. Because here's the interesting thing. Food waste is the third largest source of greenhouse gases in the world. Food waste is a huge, huge, huge pollutant. Now, the EPA just announced yesterday evening, the announcement came out that they're going to target food waste reduction. And they're going to target 50% reduction in food waste by 2030 to try and reduce the greenhouse gases emitted by food waste in this country. They can only do it in this country, so they're going to do that. So that is important. It's important for us to understand that. It's important for us to work on that problem, et cetera. And that's the data center stuff. You know, the Helix is not just about collaboration space, and it's not just about all these different shiny modules and cool technology and things like that. Plenty. If you are an engineer, come and I'll just leave you there for a week. You can crawl around all those places. There's so much equipment for you and so much electronics and so much mechanical stuff. You can go crazy in that place. But we also wanted to bring art into this place. And so we actually, Joanna and a few others worked with your art design department. So this is going to be nice to have your UD students actually do some artwork, and you know, they actually walked through. I gave them a tour of the Helix, and they saw what we're doing and talked to them about what we're doing, etc., so that they can go and work on their art piece and have it more meaningful. And this is a chart that you might have seen before. There's a lot of benefits that are going to come out of this Helix, and I know that I'm hoping that we do a lot more with you in terms of school programs. We talked about maybe a master's level program or something like that. All of those things are things that I would like to talk to you all about in the next, you know, maybe in January or something, once we get this thing up and running. But this, I think in the long term, I'm hoping that this is something that we'll all look back about 10, 15 years from now and be proud of what we have done here in Dayton, Ohio. And hopefully it'll benefit not just Emerson and not just University of Dayton, but the Dayton area and Southwest Ohio in general. And that's all I have.